This is Steve Downs, the voice of Master Chief Sierra 117, with a shout out to the Xbox Expansion Pass. Keep your heads up during this time of isolation. Stay positive. Play some games. Most importantly, finish the fight. Thanks for listening to XEP. Master Chief, out.
Welcome one, welcome all to episode 86 of the Xbox Expansion Pass, recorded on Sunday, June 13th, 2021. I am your host, Luke Lohr, the InsipidGhost. In this episode, we're joined by Miles Dompier of Windows Central to reflect on the impressive Xbox and Bethesda showcase for E3 and other goings-on around the gamerverse. Enjoy. Yet another week of gaming is upon us and behind us. Welcome to XEP, discussing all things in the gamerverse as they pertain to the Xbox ecosystem. And as I am wont to do each and every week, I like to start the show by offering words of kindness to those who have made my gaming week better. And this week, the words of kindness go to my guest, Mr. Miles Dompier of Windows Central, who I have had the privilege and pleasure to be on several shows with of late. XEP, we were on Bitcast as well. Miles, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely, Luke. Thanks for inviting me. I'm stoked to talk to you today. We're coming right off the back of the big Xbox and Bethesda game showcase. So a lot of energy and excitement, and can't wait to get into it, man.
I cannot tell you just how impressed and exhausted I am after having seen that conference. I know we were talking just before recording. We got a lot of info in there, and I'm looking at their press release that they just put out, and it feels accurate. We saw 30 games, 27 of which are in Game Pass, which is just astounding when you think about it. Certainly working to combat the narrative that Xbox has no games, and I'm feeling more confident about that than I ever have before. First impressions on looking back to the showcase. What'd you think, man?
I was really impressed by the pacing of everything because they started off, oddly enough, with Starfield, which when we were on Bitcast, most of us didn't really expect Starfield first. But in hindsight, that was a really good move. They came out and said, this is Starfield. This is the next big Bethesda game, the first new Bethesda IP in a long time. And you know what? This is an Xbox exclusive. If you want to play the biggest and best Bethesda games, we are part of Xbox now. And then to further that, they straight up said, I believe it was Sarah Bond who said, Bethesda's not a partner. Bethesda is part of the Xbox team, which I loved that messaging. I wanted this showcase to be about that messaging, and I think they absolutely nailed that with the big stuff from Bethesda that they showed.
Certainly agree. My biggest question mark going into this episode of this showcase was just how they would demonstrate that Bethesda is part of the Xbox ecosystem, part of the Xbox family, and not tangential to it, not an aside, not a piece of it, but instead overall one within the family. And I thought they did a very good job of that. They sprinkled Bethesda throughout. It wasn't like we had a hard stop. This is the end of the Xbox showcase. This is now Bethesda. They're sprinkled throughout. Showcasing Starfield off the bat was, I thought, a very wise decision. They included the release date as well. They made it very clear that it's exclusive. They didn't really show much in the way of gameplay. In fact, I leave this showcase still not being 100% sure just what Starfield is. Nonetheless, I thought it was a rather impressive teaser overall.
I totally agree. What we saw of Starfield was really cool. There was a lot of conversations early on in the year as to whether or not Xbox and Bethesda would be this hard divide. And people went back and forth. And, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I feel like Phil Spencer and I are on the same wavelength, because ahead of the show, I was saying, I don't want a hard divide. Please don't have a hard divide between Xbox and Bethesda. There was no hard divide. I also, ahead of the show, I was like, I don't want to see acquisition news. I know there was a lot of rumors, a lot of energy and anticipation regarding acquisitions. And I was like, please don't make the first big show with Bethesda feature a bunch of acquisitions. It sets
Mm-hmm.
weird messaging. And there was no talk of any acquisitions at this show. It was just game on game on game on game. And the stuff from Bethesda was like a nice cap. Like it's kicked the show off and it ended the show, which I thought was beautiful. And it's exactly what I wanted from this showcase. So I'm reeling, I'm feeling really good.
Couldn't agree more. And I was checking the social spaces as well to see just how the internet was feeling, because they
Ooh.
can be a very harsh critic. And Jeff Keighley put out a poll that when I last checked it at the time of this recording had over 20,000 people answering, and 70% total were saying A or B. It was a combined, like 30 and 40% or something like that. But seemingly very high on it overall. I am inclined to agree. I felt like the showcase got an A, I guess, in my sense of the word. It was actually the second game they showed, Stalker 2, that I was more downtrodden on of all things. And I wasn't expecting myself to be, but it just ran long and it was very slow. And I felt like the Stalker 2 showcase looked a lot like Metro Exodus, just, better looking in some ways. And it didn't do much to discern me there. But if that was my low point, I'm feeling great about this showcase, because I'm still going to get Stalker 2. I still thought it was impressive to see. It was just a slower paced trailer. But from there, we had Back for Blood, we had Avalanche's new game, Yakuza news, Battlefield. I mean, there was a lot in just the first 20 to 25 minutes there. When we saw Back for Blood, it unfortunately was leaked early by the video itself that Back
Mm-hmm.
for Blood would be day one Game Pass, but I thought nonetheless it still hit pretty well to be coming to Game Pass day one.
Yeah, this is a game I was going to buy day one without question. I love Left 4 Dead. I was ready. I've been wanting Left 4 Dead 3 for a decade, and this was that. I've played the alpha. The game feels incredible, looks incredible. Cannot wait to play it on Series X. So, as much as people wanted Battlefield, I'm honestly a little more hyped that Back for Blood is launching in day one into Game Pass, because before that kind of video accidentally confirmed this, I didn't see
Mm-hmm.
that coming. I was not expecting Back for Blood to come to Xbox Game Pass, and it felt really good to see it. 27 out of the 30 games we saw at the Xbox showcase, Game Pass day one, which is huge, and that was cool. That was really exciting.
Cannot agree more there. Back for Blood looking great, very much looking like what I would have thought Left 4 Dead 3 would be.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of multiplayer PvP elements to that, a lot of PvE is the basis of the game. Really impressed by what they're doing with Back for Blood. It is it's weird to me because Back for Blood is now I thought it was kind of living alone in its window of release, and now it's living among many games that are coming out between September through December. And I am ecstatic for it. Back for Blood looking great. We saw Avalanche's new game, and they were the studio that was often rumored by the insider world to be shown to be acquired. But we saw their new game, Contraband, or we should say we saw a teaser for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Definitely a
impressive
teaser.
teaser. Yeah, CG trailer overall. I guess you'll be smuggling things. That was kind of my takeaway.
Yes. So I'm excited. I can talk a little bit more about this now. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, Contraband is confirmed. That was the Project Typhoon that we've been teasing for a while, and
There you go.
it's confirmed that it was made by Avalanche. We didn't really confirm that, but yes, we had heard that Avalanche was making Project Typhoon, which we later found out was going to be called Contraband. And
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like this is an open world co-op kind of heist game. And so
Mm-hmm.
you got some teases of that when they were like looking at the map and you were planning out your kind of strategy. So it seems
Mm-hmm.
like this big, massive multiplayer game that's not so much focused on combat, but kind of like collaborating to pull off these kind of like Ocean's 11 style elaborate heists is what it sounds like. And I can't wait to see that in action.
Mm-hmm. Where's your temperature gauge on this one?
I need to see it. I really need to see because the premise sounds cool, and Avalanche has proven themselves to be incredible with open world sandbox style games. So
Mm-hmm.
that alone gives me confidence that it will be fun. But I need to see it. I'm at I'd say a 7 or an 8
Certainly.
right now.
Certainly.
But if
I
the
agree.
gameplay blows up, then yeah, I'm all in.
I agree. I mean, it's the creators of Just Cause, so you know there's a lot of potential for shenanigans, to say the least. But like you, I want to see more. But that teaser was enough to perk my eyes and say, okay, next time I see this name come up, I will be looking for more news, and that's exactly what it's there for, right? That's exactly what it's
Exactly.
there for. Now, news that you and I were probably both giddy over, and I know that I lost it on stream just when I saw this. Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves, which is arguably one of the most successful IP, huge number of concurrent players, constantly adding content to the game. This looks like they're getting a massive expansion with Sea of Thieves, A Pirate's Life, featuring one Jack Sparrow and the entire world, seemingly, of Pirates of the Caribbean. I lost my mind. What was your kind of first impulse when you saw it?
Same, dude. We were live streaming over on Windows Central Gaming. You could see the chat just being like, Miles is loving this. I was so stoked on that. I couldn't believe how huge it was because
Mm-hmm.
again, like the Pirates of the Caribbean Sea of Thieves crossover, we got some leaked information on that. So I knew that was coming. So my friend group, like I wanted to tell people so bad for so long now that I heard about this. I was expecting a tease. I was expecting them to like do some Sea of Thieves stuff, and at the end you see a brief glimpse of Jack Sparrow, and that's it. And then they'd be like, "Oh, it's coming in 6 months or whatever, coming 2022." That's what I was expecting. When they showed this extended trailer with Jack Sparrow, with Davy Jones, with mermaids. If you're a Sea of Thieves fan, we've been yelling about mermaids since launch. New
Yep.
like crab enemies, new enemy variety, and then they got Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow. Like how?
Was that actually Johnny Depp? That really was him?
That had to be Johnny Depp. There's no way that was not Johnny Depp. Because
It sounded
there's
so good.
legalities involved when it comes to like having the likeness of someone and then also impersonating their voice. That's why they're like with Terminator, like they couldn't get Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice, but they had like a dude who kind of sounded like him, and it was this uncanny valley. But that had to be Johnny Depp. That had to be Johnny Depp. It was too perfect.
Sea of Thieves is one of those games that I think many people sleep on, but also many people don't realize just how huge the player base is, the audience is. It is a massive game, and for them to be getting another kind of story-driven element here, but also adding enemy types. I mean, this is a games of service that is managed to do a really wonderful monetization model that doesn't feel predatory at all. I have purchased both Blunder Passes to date and been very pleased with it. There's a lot of great game here. And now, if you'll forgive the pun, the depth is that much more with new enemy types, mermaids. I was seeing iconic ships from Pirates of the Caribbean. This is a match made in heaven from the right team to make it. And I'm so freaking pumped. I hope this brings more people into the Sea of Thieves. They've done a lot better job at helping people onboard into that game. And it just looks incredible. I mean, I was stunned by the character models. Like, it really did surprise me just how good a job they did bringing the Pirates of the Caribbean, that Jack Sparrow character, into the world of Sea of Thieves.
Seeing Davy Jones for the first time in this trailer, I was like, oh man. It took me back to seeing Dead Man's Chest for the first time, like seeing Pirates of the Caribbean 2 for the first time in theaters. That's kind of the energy and vibes I felt when I saw this, and I was like, yes. It's funny to me because before I had heard about this collaboration, this collaboration never crossed my mind once, oddly enough. And now that I see it, it is the most obvious, perfect collaboration that has ever existed in video games.
At most, I think, because I mean, when I got deep into Sea of Thieves, again, pardon the pun, I'm sorry, but when I really got into it, I was watching a lot of Pirates of the Caribbean just because I liked, the pirate life and the aesthetic there, and I thought at most we might get a ship, or a ship, that we might get a character model for the Black Pearl, and that would be in the game. We get a livery, I should say. And this is beyond my wildest dreams. And I think a lot of new players and a lot of players that have been there since day one are going to find something special here. Match made in heaven, could not be happier. I mean, I literally screamed it. I mean, they did it. They did it. They nailed it with that one.
Yes, like you said, so much more content than I was expecting, and it's coming so soon. It's like a week.
Yeah,
like
June 22nd.
Week. What?
Yeah, I'm
Dude,
stoked. I'm
when I
stoked.
saw that date, I wanted to just scream. I could not believe it because the Sea of Thieves team has to be so pumped. You have to know they've been working on this for so long and have wanted to talk about it for so long. When I interviewed Joe Neat and Mike Chapman, like I was trying to squeeze some details,
Mm-hmm.
specifically mermaids. I'm like, you've been teasing it. When are you going to give us the mermaids? And they're just like, And so it to me, it's funny that at that point in time they had to know this was happening, and they were just waiting to scream it because that reveal was huge. I was feeling that reveal for like that carried like 20 more minutes into the show for me.
Same, really and truly, and that got me rehyped for what was already a decent show at that point. But the pace just kept going, which I thought was really cool. We spent longer on Sea of Thieves than I thought, and they just kept sending out these big vibes. Yakuza Like a Dragon dropping into Game Pass today, or at least at the time of this recording today. And then right from that, Battlefield 2042 gameplay, putting to rest any concerns that I had about this whole $70 thing, which I wasn't really too worried about. But the traversal, the gameplay of Battlefield looks to be an homage for fans of old, and a lot of special for fans that are just going to be entering into that world.
I felt the same way because honestly, I'll play Battlefield once every several years. Usually, I'm getting the first Battlefield of the gen. Like Battlefield 4 on Xbox One was stoked about. The first Battlefield on Xbox 360 also excited about. So I went into this kind of the reveal, not the Xbox showcase, but the reveal earlier this week, being like, okay, let's see. Like anticipation wasn't high. I left that reveal feeling really excited about this game, and then seeing the gameplay that absolutely sold me. Like I know people have their complaints about the lack of campaign, price tag, whatever it might be. It's not coming to Game Pass now. That is confirmed, but I'm buying that day one. That game looks like an absolute blast. I'm glad they toned down the realism and just said, you know what? Be dumb with it. Be
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous. Here's a giant tornado. Here's a wingsuit. Here is a quad jumping and exploding into a helicopter. Here's your
They nailed it.
sandbox. Go wild. And I was like, all right, I'm in.
Could not agree more. It was really neat, I think, as well, to watch the traversal methods of zip lines and hopping off into the wingsuit. Uh, and they do such a good job with weather and physics and vehicles. And again, they're having some fun with it. Like you said, they're having some fun with it. And it made me that much more excited for when the game comes out. And I will say to any listener, I have no qualms about a $70 price tag. Campaign or not, that game looks quality at this point, and I'm very anxious to see how they manage the release into EA Play trials, whether it comes to Game Pass 6 months out, a year, whatever they handle there. Those are fun business things for me to watch as well.
Yeah, it is nice that even without Game Pass, because I know there was so much energy behind the Battlefield coming to Game Pass conversations that people just thought that was the truth, that was
Mm-hmm.
100% confirmed. We're going to see that.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I saw Back for Blood launching in October, I was like, okay, that pretty much confirms Battlefield is not launching into
Fully
Game
agree.
Pass.
Fully
But
agree.
that being said, we all at least get 10 hours to decide whether or not we want to spend the $70, which I think is really cool because with a multiplayer only game, with 10 hours, you'll have a good idea of whether or not this is something you're going to spend 10, 20, 30 hours more, and is it worth $70? So I do appreciate that that is an option with Battlefield. They're giving you the full 10 hours.
Absolutely. And the thing about that 10 hours is you can use it how you want in that multiplayer. And so I'm very curious to just see the fan reaction around Battlefield, how it navigates the release dates around the rest of the fall, how Call of Duty lands in there. We got multiplayer Halo dropping free this holiday. There's a lot of competition. They've got to deliver it, and it looks like they're bringing their A game. So that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah, yes, that is super dope.
Several games, though, have crowded into the month of August. Right there in the presentation, we saw Psychonauts 12 minutes and Hades landing into that August release window. I know that a ton of people were super stoked for all three of these games in different respects. Hades, of course, award-winning. Psychonauts 2 has the backing of Double Fine. That'll be multi-console as well. And 12 minutes is uh, highly regarded in the indie community, has a star-studded cast of William Dafoe, Daisy Ridley, and for the life of me, I can't remember Professor X's name.
Oh, James McAvoy.
Thank you so much, James McAvoy. I appreciate it. I've played 12 minutes way back in 2019, and the game has certainly come a long way there. August looking to be a good month for gamers.
Oh, we eating good. Yeah, 12 minutes. Another one I'm really excited to see come to Game Pass. Would have bought that day one. That looks like an incredible, unique indie experience. And again, that cast. Willem Dafoe, as soon as I saw his name in the trailer, I was sold. That was it. We got Psychonauts 2 as well, which is going to be another incredible get for Xbox Game Pass. And another incredible get for fans of the series. It's been the first Psychonauts game in what, 15 years? Has it been longer? It might even be longer than that.
I never played the first one, and this trailer had me wishing that there was a remaster just so I could experience that world ahead of the sequel, but I have a feeling Double Fine will take care of us. Nonetheless, that game does look really good.
Yes, I played Psychonauts back on Xbox. I will admit that I have never beaten Psychonauts. I did really like it though. I remember as a kid really being intrigued and captivated by this world, and I had a bunch of friends growing up who were like hardcore cult Psychonauts fans, and so there's been this outcry, and it was a game that started just via Kickstarter. Like Double Fine was like, we want to make this, but we don't have the budget to do what we want to do. So it got kickstarted, and then it got picked up by Xbox. So now it's got even more of a budget. So the scope and scale of Psychonauts 2, from what I'm hearing, is like dozens of hours. Like this is supposed to be the biggest game that Double Fine has ever made.
I'm looking forward to it. And all the hype that I had for those indies, including Somerville, which was shown just after Hades, all of that was escalated tenfold because up next was Halo Infinite. And I had so many curiosities for how they would manage the yet again the next introduction of Halo Infinite after a frustrating show last year that I was very high on. I liked last year's show, but they had a lot of questions they needed answered. They brought Joseph Staten out there. Bonnie Ross was out there. They showcased some story elements, which I thought were very well crafted enough to show the direction they might be going in for those of us who aren't, or those of you who are not nerds like me and read the books, which you should totally do. Shadows of Reach is great. Halo Infinite, man, we saw single player, we saw multiplayer. Through the roof were my expectations, and through the roof they were met, and that's a hard thing to do. I lost it. Where did you land in the Halo Infinite reveal?
I was so happy by the showing of Halo Infinite because I was worried that because I had heard exactly what this trailer was. I had heard ahead of time because some of the stuff was out and about. So I had heard how it was going to be shown, that they weren't going to have an extended campaign gameplay. And I was like, oh no extended campaign gameplay. People are going to rip it apart. People are going to complain. Then when I saw it, I love the narrative beats. I love that they started with the opening shot of the campaign world, like having the pelican fly over and giving this grand shot of the scope and scale of this world. That's where I was like, okay, this is going to look great. I don't have any doubts about how this game's going to look. I already know it's going to play well, but that was like that got rid of all my doubts. And then cutting to the in-engine like cutscene of Chief floating in space, making his way through, and the lighting was incredible, the detail was incredible. Everything they showed in that cutscene was like what critics.
If you'll pardon me interrupting you briefly, I will recommend to any listener, go back to the 4K trailer and watch this on whatever best screen you have in your household. It is absurd seeing this in 4K on an OLED. It is absurd just how good the nicks on the armor look, the depth of field, and just how far out you're seeing details in the world. You are absolutely right, Miles. It's gorgeous.
It looks, and yeah, you're totally right. I have gone through a couple trailers. After this ends, I'm going to go back and watch more, but rewatching them in 4K without the 1080p stream compression makes so much of a difference. And Halo Infinite, even stream compressed 1080p, looked stellar. And then the multiplayer hit, and I was like, let's go, dude. Confirming the grappling hook for multiplayer, showing all the ridiculous stuff you can do with that in multiplayer. As soon as I saw the grappling hook jack the flying vehicle, dude, I wasn't even thinking about that when they showed the grappling hook in campaign. and now seeing it in multiplayer, it's this completely new dynamic to multiplayer in Halo.
There looks to be a lot of cosmetics, which for anyone that's been playing Master Chief Collection, they've been working to bring cosmetics into the world of Halo at a steady rate. But this was upped 10 times over, and we know the multiplayer will be free, and I'm comfortable with that. I'm happy with that, provided they can monetize well. And after having played several Xbox Game Studio titles where they're working on healthy monetization models, I have a lot of excitement for Infinite and just how they're doing it. The gameplay looked wonderful. We know they'll be ripe with game modes, ripe with a lot of ways to customize and create things. Everybody seems to be mentioning Halo Battle Royale, and I think the world would be great for it. It's a matter of if the community is truly, genuinely wanting it, and I'm sure there are ways to create it in this next stage and level of Forge. But I was most impressed with the weapons and just how the weapons looked and sounded and moved about. Watching the grapple hook transition to a sniper rifle was just, I was in awe. And I feel like I'm waxing poetic on this Xbox showcase and a lot of the games here. And I'm okay doing that because I really did feel this way throughout. Watching blasts be repelled back and forth between players, it had old school Halo vibes with modern understandings of what Halo truly is.
I totally agree. It was what Halo Infinite is doing is reminding longtime fans of why they love Halo and why Halo was so special, while also adding some modern niceties to pull in a fresh audience. The free to play move is going to pull in a huge new audience who maybe have written off Halo as this, old shooter or this shooter that's kind of outdated. And now
Sure.
they're going to have no barrier to entry to check it out and be like, oh, wow. You know what? There's still, to this day, is nothing quite like Halo in the first-person shooter space. And I think that's going to be what the launch of Halo Infinite is all about. From campaign to multiplayer, they're going to remind you why Halo is so special and so important.
Agreed. Now, not once in this trailer did I see Craig or a brute, to say the least. I'm simultaneously happy and displeased by that.
I agree.
Because
Hard agree.
because I wanted to know where that was along the way, but I also appreciate that the message is not clouded by any jokes or memeified elements, because there's a lot to celebrate in this. So cheers to anybody, whether you're single player or multiplayer, invested or interested in Halo. I think you'll be very pleased with your time spent. And I'm curious down the line to find out about people that don't like Halo, aren't into it, if they give it a shot by way of Xbox Game Pass or the free multiplayer. There's a lot of things riding on Halo, but it looks like it's in a very healthy direction.
I hope so. I want Halo to hit in a big way. I want people to fall in love with Halo the same way I did back in the day. And, all signs are pointing to that's the intention and the goal of this game. So I'm hoping it dunks on it. But I do have one weird, I guess, comment or thing I noticed is we got a release date for Starfield, which is next November. We did not get a release date for Halo Infinite. We just got holiday 2021, which I thought was incredibly weird.
I noticed the exact same thing, and I think there are a couple reasons or elements to this. We know that in November, on November 9th, which is a Tuesday, we will see Forza Horizon 5, which was announced later in the show. We also know that it's holiday 2021 for Halo Infinite. In my mind, November 7th makes sense because it's 117. That might be a fun date there, and we know Xbox likes to play with their dates. Simultaneously, we don't know the release dates for Breath of the Wild 2, this often rumored Super Switch, if that's even real at this point, and Horizon Forbidden West. And those are set to be heavy hitters of games alongside staples like Call of Duty. Perhaps they're just figuring out the best time slot to release it because they've had plenty of time to refine it. We didn't get flighting information either for beta, I don't believe, unless I missed something.
No, a little disappointed there as well.
Yeah, I would expect we find out more in July, if I had to guess.
Yeah, and so you bring up some interesting points. Phil Spencer came out on stage at one point during the show and talked about how they want to make sure you have every single month there's going to be one kind of key pillar game they're releasing in Xbox Game Pass, and they stressed that. So I'm wondering if, they're waiting to see what PlayStation does, what Nintendo does, and I'm almost wondering now if Halo Infinite's going to be a December game, because did we see a big pillar game in December? We have Forza in November, and now we have Back for Blood in October.
Right.
And then what was September? Was there anything? I know they
Top
had
of my head, I'm not remembering, but I'm sure there is a 9 release date in my notes. I'm looking through as we talk. But
and then
you're
August
right.
was Psychonauts 2. So there's up until December, there's one notable game I can point to that's launching an Xbox Game Pass.
It is true. I think it would be a mistake to miss the Black Friday opportunities of Halo.
Agreed.
I think that would be a mistake. That's just an important day. Even though I'm not a big, I don't do any shopping on Black Friday anymore. Amazon is my friend. Nonetheless, there's a lot of marketing opportunities there. But perhaps they burned a lot of their marketing budget for this game and all of the collectibles that are surrounding my room right now. Maybe they're hoping the game will speak for itself. But December is a good time too. I mean, wherever it lands, it's going to be big. It's a matter of making sure it's the right spot. And so maybe they are really waiting for release dates. Who knows?
Yeah, because there's been kind of this rumor. I don't know what the credibility is, but there was talks of Halo Infinite maybe launching in September. But now after this trailer confirming holiday, September is certainly not within the window of holiday 2021.
Agreed. And so I'm curious. Well, I keep saying I'm curious, and I genuinely am. There's a lot to be curious about as far as release dates and talking points. And it could be that they want to see how the multiplayer betas play out overall and make sure everything is looking good and looking solid. I can't imagine it's production stuff because the game is cross-gen. So we'll see. Beyond Halo, we saw Plague Tale 2. We saw Far Cry 6, which I'm really tired of seeing.
Yeah, agree.
Diablo 2 is getting its remaster release in September, on September 23rd. I know a lot of people are ecstatic for that old school vibe there. And then we saw a slew of indie games. Did any of those kind of jump out to you from Diablo, Plague Tale, Far Cry, any of that?
A lot of them did. That's one thing I was really excited about. Like even the stuff I am not the most like fanatic about, like Forza Horizon 5. I'm not huge into racing games, generally speaking. Flight Simulator, not big into simulation games, generally speaking. But a lot of stuff that was shown, I was interested in. So Diablo 2 resurrected, I should say. Oh yeah, I'm ready. Diablo 2 is one of the games I've put thousands of hours into back in the day. I am so ready. We got a release date for that. That's September. Unfortunately, that is not launching in Xbox Game Pass, but I'm there day one. And one thing I did love about the show is they were showing you games running on the Xbox Series X. So even though Far Cry 6, I am also tired of seeing it. We got to see what it was going to run like on the Xbox Series X. And a lot of these trailers are telling you like these are the benefits of the Series X. So Diablo 4K 60. So that was something that we saw consistently. So it was really cool this time around, especially compared to last showcase, that we got these games running on the Series X and we know how they're going to look on the Series X. But Plague Tale Requiem, whew, I'm ready for that. The first one is such a compelling, incredible game, and it had such a small budget. So it was really, really great to see a sequel coming, presumably on a much larger scale with a much bigger budget. If the trailer, although it was CG, is any indication of that.
Consistently, I hear good things about A Plague Tale, the first one, Innocence, I think it was called. Nonetheless, I did not play it, and I wasn't overly interested in it. The trailer was impressive, and I tipped my hat, I suppose, as it were, kind of this section of the show, because after the great news of Sea of Thieves, Halo, and Starfield, they kept the pacing going rather well. They mixed in these indie titles. They mixed in some of these smaller AAA, AA titles like A Plague Tale, which did really indeed look great. I agree with you about seeing some of that Series X gameplay. That was awesome. There was a game called Shredders that I was really into. The very zen-like snowboarding game. It gave me SSX vibes, which was dope. That stood out to me. I thought it was Steep at first, or Riders Republic, and it was neither. It was Shredders. Not that was impressive. Also, Miles, I just dropped it into our DMs. I just got word while we were recording that there is a Halo Infinite multiplayer overview on Halo Infinite's official YouTube page taking place on June 14th at 11 a.m. So by the time this episode is live, everyone, there will be an overview of Halo Infinite's multiplayer on its official channel. That'll be interesting to see for sure.
Yes, because as much as I liked what they were showing of the Halo Infinite multiplayer, I was
Mm-hmm.
hoping for that deep dive. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I just see that link now, and I will be watching that the second it goes live because I want to see the full spread. I would
Right.
love for them to show off a new mode. I feel like they would have done that as part of the E3 showcase if they were going to, but maybe, just maybe, we'll see something in this multiplayer breakdown. But oh yeah, I'm
Yeah.
ready for that, and I'm glad they're continuing. I kind of expected there would be the reveal and then supplemental stuff along the way.
Indeed. Indeed. And that's what they should do. That's what they should do. Learn those lessons. I think that PlayStation does so well with its state of plays, having those deep dives, but letting an Xbox flavor exist for it. So cheers to them and good luck for that. I'm looking forward to it, to say the least. Beyond that, we saw Atomic Heart Replaced, which is a dope little indie game. Grounded made an appearance yet again. That's Obsidian's smallest team. That's the one that debuted into game preview with like 1 million players. Really, really impressive showing. They had some humor in their trailer with the spiders, adding achievements to the game. I'm really happy to see Grounded continuing to go up there. Among Us landed in, which I know several people were stoked about. I am not on that front.
Among
And
Us,
what's that? What did
Among
you say?
Us.
Is that how you pronounce it? Oh
That's
no.
just the meme way to pronounce it. Just mashing
Oh,
Among Us together into one word.
as a middle school teacher, the amount of times that I was forced to hear the word sus was absurd. And it was, I can't recover from it.
No, Sus has been beaten to death, buried, dug out of the grave, and then beaten even more.
Yeah,
I'm so tired of hearing Sus. I
same.
can't. And I'm not even a middle school teacher. This is just me going on twitter.com.
You're sounding very sus, Miles.
God,
I'm sorry. I had to do it. I did.
no.
I felt bad the moment I said it. I was like, this is too much. And there I was.
Don't do it. You did it. And
I
I
did.
commend your commitment.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. Euclidean Chronicles. I think that's what it was. Eudian.
Oh, that, you know what? I got to give a quick shout out to that for the JRPG fans. I will say I used to love JRPGs. I
Mm-hmm.
have fallen out of love in a hard way with most JRPGs, especially turn-based. But that trailer got me feeling a certain way. It looked like it's one of those 2.5D, so it's got the pixel art in the 3D kind of setting, but it looked really, really good.
They showed 2 games for it too, didn't they?
It was like a
2022 and 3.
1-2 punch. Yeah, it was like here's the main one, and here's like the side one that's like a kind of a 2D side-scrolling beat 'em up. It looked like.
For a company like Xbox that has really done a good job to fill its gaming gaps, as it were, with RPGs and acquisitions of different studios, the JRPG realm and that Japanese connection is missing. However, they're doing a good job at bringing Yakuza into Game Pass, bringing a lot of different titles from around the world, and games like this as well to satiate fans of JRPGs. I still don't think it's the best place for them. So if you're a JRPG fan, you wouldn't be going to get an Xbox if that's the only thing you liked. But this is good news for gamers on that front.
Yes, I have to commend Xbox on the variety of genres that they showed at their showcase. There was something for everyone here, which if you're trying to build up Xbox and Xbox Game Pass specifically, that's the way to do it.
2 other games stood out to me kind of in that smaller realm: Atomic Heart and Replaced. Very different tones, but both were, I thought, really cool looking. Replaced was that 2D, not quite cyberpunk aesthetic, and then I thought it was going to be a visual novel, and then it broke into some really cool pixel action. That one looked super dope. And then Atomic Heart, I thought was Fallout at one point, and it really wasn't. It was like a Wolfenstein meets Fallout meets something I'm not sure about. I thought those were cool.
Atomic Heart, I've been watching that game like a hawk for years now because it seems to be capturing the weird vibe of BioShock. This is like
That's a
kind of
game we've heard about before, Miles. I'd never heard of it.
yeah, it's like started off as like an indie project. It was revealed a couple years ago. It's been in development for a long time. People were expecting it last year and then maybe this year, but yeah, it's pretty much the BioShock reboot that I've been wanting. Like after seeing what we saw of Atomic Heart, I don't even really care as much about BioShock 4 anymore because Atomic Heart seems like it's going to scratch that itch in such a big way for me.
That's cool. That's cool. Again, Replace looked good. Then they showed some of the Ascent, which continues to impress. I am, I'm thrilled to see where the Ascent is taking gamers, for sure. And then beyond that, Age of Empires getting a lot of love for PC gamers. And I know that many of my friends are really stoked for what this game has to offer. I was glad to see a PC game in the Windows Showcase. Or Windows Showcase in the Xbox Bethesda Showcase, because there are a lot of gamers out there that are gaming just on their PC, and this is for them.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of those things where Xbox has said they are taking PC gaming more seriously and having a big showpiece like Age of Empires 4, which in the PC community is a huge deal. Age of Empires 2, one of the PC games I played more than any other. And it seems like Age of Empires 4 is kind of harkening back to what was so amazing about Age of Empires 2, because the reception for Age of Empires 3 generally positive but mixed compared to Age of Empires 2, and it seems like they've kind of gone back to basics, well, again, kind of like Halo Infinite, while also introducing modern features that people want. So yeah, that was cool. I'm glad we saw a PC exclusive at the Xbox Game Showcase.
Agreed. Agreed. After that, I'm laughing before I talk about it. I was really thrilled by this trailer, and then I found out what it was, and I tipped my hat to the team behind The Outer Worlds 2. I know Obsidian's getting a lot of love, and they deserve it. That trailer had me chuckling something fierce. The dialogue was hilarious. The game looked great, but they talked about things like, and we don't know anything except for the title. We were too lazy to put anything together except for a silhouette. And it just got me. I thought that was great. Outer Worlds 2, exclusive to Xbox, I should say.
Yes, the Obsidian, I was talking about this during the live stream we did. They are the new kings of trailers. The Grounded trailer that we saw and the Outer Worlds 2 trailer that we saw were perfect. They just made fun of all of the cliches in video game trailers. They are not taking themselves too seriously, and they're just hilarious. Like, I was legitimately laughing out loud during the Grounded trailer and the Outer Worlds, the Outer Worlds 2 trailer. And me, I was so shocked by how much I loved the Outer Worlds. When the Outer Worlds was revealed, I was like, okay, here we go again. Fallout one more time with a different setting. And then I played it, and the world, the story, the characters, everything about the Outer Worlds I loved. When I wrapped up that game, I was wanting more immediately. And getting a sequel announced this soon just kind of shows how important that IP was to a lot of people. So I'm ready. Obsidian is one of the best gets for Xbox, hands down. That studio that studio is just killing it.
Easily, I would argue their best get for all the love and appreciation that Bethesda and so many others are deserving. I think Obsidian has the most potential to be Xbox's Insomniac, as it were. I mean, they're just leaps and bounds impressing on several levels, and they've got several teams cranking different types of games as well. And while the Outer Worlds never really spoke to me, it's not my kind of game, and it really wouldn't be. I know. I mean, I saw Twitter explode with excitement for the brand, and that means excitement for Xbox, which only bodes well for Game Pass in the future, for sure. Did you see the Flight Simulator content? Flight Simulator, of course, coming to consoles in July, late July, which is really great for a lot of people that are into it. Did you see just how good this game looks visually?
Dude, yes.
Right?
Like, we got to see it running on the Series X, which I like. We know Flight Simulator looked phenomenal running on PCs, but I had friends with really high end. We're talking over $2,000 rigs talking about how Flight Simulator was pushing their machines. Their fans were going into overdrive running Flight Simulator. So I was like, whew, that's kind of scary to hear. I wonder how the Series X is going to run it. And then we saw it running in engine on the Series X. And I was like, damn, that is
Mm-hmm.
looking good. That is looking really good. And I cannot wait to play that on the Series X. Granted, I probably won't play it long, but I'll download the 200 gigs or however meaty that thing is, and
I
I will
know.
check it out.
I I have no interest in Flight Simulator playing it, or at least I should say I had no interest because I wouldn't download 200 gigs just to play it for 10, 15 minutes. I would look at screenshots and marvel at its beauty, but a lot of people are really into it. Now I say that, Miles, knowing that full well when I heard that Top Gun chime, I was like, "Oh, what was that?" And then I saw they're doing like a free DLC or expansion, I should say. They're calling it an expansion in the trailer for Top Gun Maverick, putting an F-18 in there. I was like, maybe I will download this bad boy. Just maybe. Just maybe.
I was kind of confused because I almost thought for a second they were doing a Top Gun game to coincide with a movie, and I was like, oh no, please don't do a Top Gun game, please. And then I was like, oh yeah, this is following Flight Simulator. This is probably just some DLC. And I was like, okay, oh thank goodness, oh thank goodness.
I was into it, but I agree with you. Yeah, a franchised game, or I should, yeah, no, that was not what I was thinking, and it was cool also to watch them go from like this high fidelity, incredibly visual flight simulator Top Gun expansion thing into Forza Horizon 5. Those together are just this dynamic duo of visuals and vehicles. I was stunned going from one to the other and seeing just how good these games look. And Forza Horizon 5 set in Mexico, which we all were thinking at this point. They spent a good while on it in the showcase, which surprised me. They spent a longer time than I was expecting. But man, Miles, I keep saying how impressed I was, and I was off my rocker seeing the rocks in the background while you drove through with these water effects and the lighting. I mean, it you could have told me looking at the cars, I would have said, okay, this is Forza Horizon 4 on a Series X or whatnot. Sure. But then when I saw it driving and the reflections in the windows and seeing the shadows bounce around, again, to any listener, go back to the 4K trailer, see the detail we're talking about. It was nuts, and I love that it's Horizon, not Motorsport. Uh, Man, dude, it was day one buy anyway for me. Game Pass, sure, but oh my goodness, Miles, my excitement cannot be contained.
I was yelling at Jez when we were watching this, and I was like, dude, this is a video game. This is a video game. Watching them do the talk about the photogrammetry for these scenes that they scanned, listening to them talk about how every single needle on the cactuses are modeled. I couldn't believe the scenes look so real. Like it would cut to a different, like just landscape view in engine, just kind of panning slowly. I'm like, this looks like reality. That's always kind of, hyperbole when you say like these graphics are photorealistic. They are literally photorealistic in this case. And I couldn't believe how incredible it looked. And I know people were kind of like iffy on Mexico as a setting because everyone wanted Japan, but I think they did an incredible job in this showcase showing you why Mexico is the perfect setting for a Forza Horizon game. They
Yeah,
showed you going into a volcano.
they,
Like,
yeah, I was
ooh.
saying the biomes they showed were nuts. I was not in the Japan camp, though I understand why, but the biomes were incredible, from the volcano to the small outskirts of small towns on the sand to I don't know if you would call them wastelands, but I wouldn't call it that, but just seeing all the different flora and the mountains in the background, it was dope. And then they added in some arcadey flair with this pinata popping thing, like it was cool.
And then they showed the basically Forza Forge mode at the end. They're like, hey, you know
Hmm.
what? We know you guys like the ridiculous stuff. We know you just want to have ridiculous fun with your friends. So here you go. Make your own chaos. And that's when I was like, okay, Forza Horizon 5 is going to explode. This game is going to be huge.
I hope that with all these brilliant models and these forge modes and everything else, we see more of those crossovers with other Xbox properties and now Xbox and Bethesda properties. I loved that Halo track in Forza Horizon 4. I want to see a Thieves track. I want to see us rolling through with Doom Guy. I want to see vehicles from Fallout. I want to see these crossovers in this already stunning world. Because to me, those are the most fun. Forza Horizon is about being hilarious and silly and arcadey alongside those car nuts, and I feel like it would just be this perfect blend because I'm not a car guy, but I'm a Forza Horizon guy.
I'm the same way. I didn't really, I'll be honest, the first Forza Horizon I seriously tried was Forza Horizon 4 by virtue of Xbox Game Pass. I saw the trailer and I was like, you know what? This looks fun. This looks really cool. I don't have to pay $60. Like, I wouldn't pay $60 normally for a Forza game. I'll just say that. It's just
Yeah.
personally not my taste. But playing it, I ended up spending, I think, like 30 hours with Forza Horizon 4, which is, yeah, not something I ever expected to do. And now with the impending launch of Forza Horizon 5, I'm ready for it. I'm excited about Forza Horizon now. Whereas previously, I didn't care about car games at all.
Same, same. And I'm curious. Like, I want to know the breakdown later on in the deep dives. You know, were these water physics? Were they talking to the crew behind Sea of Thieves? What were they? Who were they talking to? How are they making it? Because everything just looks perfect in this stuff. I'm watching it right now as we speak on an OLED screen, and it's just. I mean, I have no words. I'm just at a loss for the fact that this is a video game, and you couldn't have said it better. I could not have said it better than you did. Oh man, I'm at a loss. It's cool.
It's it's special. It's going to be a big deal. And, you know, when they're showing you driving through the jungle and driving underneath these waterfalls and at the edge of a volcano, it's it shows how far gaming has come and what Playground Games is capable of. I look at that and I say, damn, Fable is going to look ridiculous.
I agree. Oh man, I'm just in awe. It was cool. Before the end of this show, this was kind of their big closer in terms of deep dive and a good amount of gameplay, and there was one of the few games that really showed a lot of gameplay. We saw one more title after that, but before we saw that closing title from Arcane, they did something that I was very much hoping they would do. I know I talked about it on Bitcast and a few others, but reminding players what is to come in the world of Xbox. Because in the last year or so, we had announcements for Avowed and Perfect Dark, for Fable, and several other big hitters. So that those announcements were made, and we already had that. But people who were watching this show might have needed a reminder. And I thought Spencer and the team did a good job at discussing those things and showing a lot of what is to come for Microsoft and Xbox ecosystem players. A lot of good stuff on the horizon. And then they closed out with Redfall, which looks dope. Dope. Talk to me about the end of the show as you were watching them close out. Did you have similar feelings to me? Different feelings? Did you think something was missing? What you got?
I again, going into the show, people wanted me to rate what I was expecting, and going into the show, I was at like a 9 out of 10 because I kind of had my expectations. I had my thoughts on how Xbox would perform. I didn't expect them to do exactly what I hoped from this show. And like you said, the messaging of the show was clear. They told you what the purpose of this game showcase was. They were showing you what the next year of Xbox looks like. This isn't a dive deep into the future of Xbox. This is to get you excited about the stuff that is coming very soon. And these games are coming to Xbox Game Pass. And here's why in the next year, you should be excited about Xbox and you should be excited about Xbox Game Pass because their big finale, Redfall, the new Arcane project, this open world co op vampire shooter, is coming next summer, which
Yeah.
that's rare that we get a new IP like that, a new big IP in that way, and it comes in a year. So that's exciting. So I'm glad that Phil came out, talked about all this, stressed the fact that they want to give you one big Xbox Game Pass game every single month. That's their goal. They're going to give you one big noteworthy Xbox Game Pass game per month. And they've stressed that this is 1 year. This is just the year. We know we talked about Everwild. We know we talked about Fable. We know we talked about Hellblade 2. Those aren't coming this year, so we're not going to talk about them this year. So just imagine how stacked the next E3 is going to be.
And E3s for years to come if they're able to hit that cadence. And all signs point to them being able to do it. I mean, I've said this before and I will reiterate. They fixed their hardware. They fixed their services. Now it's a matter of games. And that's all this show is about. So again, I'm riding very high on this one. Miles, we have some listener questions. Why don't we get to that?
Let's do it.
Blaze Knight writes in with his thoughts on the show. He says, so many of these games just looked beautiful, but as per usual, Forza takes the cake as the most beautiful photorealistic video game consistently. Xbox is going to be going hard. I'm really excited about the great titles I'll get to enjoy day and date on Game Pass. Not a question, but I think a vibe that many people are feeling after the fact, Miles.
I agree. It feels so good to leave an Xbox showcase, jump on Twitter, and just see so much positivity. Because I'm kind of in the same camp with you following last showcase. I didn't think the Halo showing was bad. Like, I left pretty excited about it. I was like, yeah, I can't wait to play Halo. I go on Twitter and oh my,
Yeah,
people were not excited about that. And I was like, okay, that kind of sucks.
catch you off
But
guard. Yeah.
this time around, I jumped off expecting to see like, oh well, Xbox isn't doing what they need to do, or Xbox is doing all the typical rhetoric that gets thrown around whenever there's an Xbox show, and I'm not seeing any of that. I haven't seen a single person on my timeline saying Xbox disappointed me, and for me that's amazing. And I'm sure for the team at Xbox, they feel really really good about what they've shown. I saw Herman Holst of PlayStation come out and say, amazing job, Xbox. You showed a bunch of games, and it's a great time to be a gamer. So you had one of the key people, the head of PlayStation Games, commending Xbox on the showing, which is always cool to see because
I love that.
there's the fanboy discourse that happens, but people in the industry are always trying to support each other and lift each other up, and that's a great reminder of that. So yeah, the energy is in the air. It feels good. And I said this on my podcast yesterday before the show that there really has never been a better time to be an Xbox fan. Genuinely and one authentically, there really hasn't.
I could not agree more, and I felt very much the same way in those particular concepts there. And I think Kevin and many others agree with you. Kevin wrote in, he said it was phenomenal, 9 out of 10, something for everyone from RPGs to FPS to even a JRPG. Games are coming the rest of this year, and 2022 looks stacked. John Wall from the Megadads wrote in as well. He said the showing was stellar, one of their best E3 showings. So many games, so much variety, and getting to play almost all of them on Game Pass was insane. I agree with everything that these guys are saying so far, and right with you. I love when I see people like Herman Holst responding and offering praise, and vice versa. I cannot stand the rhetoric of console wars. I very much enjoy the rising tides lift all boats. So it was really cool to find out about that. I had not seen Herman Holst's comment just yet, so I'm glad to see that stuff there because I think it really does help everybody when they play nice.
Yeah,
Mostly.
it's obviously their business on that level. There is extreme competition,
Absolutely.
and they are trying to make money, whatever that takes. So there's aggressive deals happening behind the scenes, but it is cool on the surface to remind everyone that it's gaming, and gaming as a hobby should be fun, should be exciting, and we don't hate each other because we're in opposite camps.
Colin Womack wrote in, Miles, and he said, maybe I was missing it, but I noticed a lacking of Xbox under one of the platforms. I was also on Xbox One under the platforms. Okay, he was saying he didn't see a lot of Xbox One titles. And he was also wondering about where in the world Compulsion Games is. Compulsion certainly absent. And Colin, I noticed a similar thing, which I was actually glad about. I saw xCloud a lot more often than I was expecting, and that pleased me as well. But yeah, Miles, Compulsion was conspicuously absent there.
Yes, we know Compulsion is hard at work on their next IP, and Compulsion is one of those studios that showed a ton of promise with We Happy Few. While I didn't love the game, I loved the world that they created with that. And I cannot wait to see what a big budget Compulsion Games title looks like under Xbox Game Studios. I'm imagining, because Xbox has done a incredible job pacing this year when it comes to dominating headlines, getting people talking about Xbox, getting people excited about Xbox. They have been doing that consistently. And I don't think that's going to stop. That is a very purposeful marketing strategy that every week, every other week, they are going to have a headline. And so later on in the year, there's a good chance we maybe see stuff from the Coalition. We see Hellblade 2, these games that people are asking about and want to see more of. Xbox is going to, spread the love out. Instead of dumping everything at one showcase, they're going to give you one stacked showcase. And then later on in the year, they're like, and there's more. We're not done here. All right. We gave you 1 year. Here's another year out. And they're going to keep that cadence. So yeah, we didn't see compulsion, but that doesn't mean we won't see compulsion this year.
And I think to any listener that is feeling similar to Colin right now, keep in mind the Game Awards is a fantastic place to round out your year, give people good mindset going into the holiday and looking forward to the future. For goodness sakes, that's where they announced the Xbox Series X. I have to imagine they're holding some stuff in reserve for the Game Awards to continue celebrating their future. But this holiday is stacked in a way that I was not expecting it to be. I was like, man, what's coming out this year? What is it? And now I'm sitting to myself thinking, how am I going to have time to get to all of this great stuff? And I know some things are going to fall by the wayside. And it's a good problem to have for sure, particularly in the Xbox space where we were so dry through the first half of the Xbox One generation. So all in all, man, I left feeling thrilled with a really impressive E3 showcase. And I don't think it's exaggeration to say that. Pretty pleased, Miles. Closing thoughts for us, man.
Yeah, I think Xbox did exactly what they needed to do and exactly what I wanted them to do. They gave you 90 minutes of reasons why Xbox Game Pass is awesome. The future of Xbox Game Pass or Xbox Game Studios is exciting, and why, if you love gaming, you should be excited about Xbox as a brand and as a platform. And there's, obviously some of the narrative is louder in certain camps, and this isn't the majority, but I think at this point, like if you are a PlayStation fan or a Nintendo fan more than you're an Xbox fan, I feel like objectively, it's going to be really, really difficult for anyone who loves video games to look at what Xbox is doing and say, that doesn't interest me. To me, I think that's borderline impossible at this point. And we haven't even seen things like Hellblade 2 and Fable hit yet. So I thought the messaging was perfect. I thought the pacing was perfect. And overall, I'd give this show a solid 9 out of 10.
100% agree. I was very pleased. I also gave it a 9 out of 10. Impressed, pleased, hopeful, lots of things to celebrate, guys. I hope that you all enjoyed the show. Go back and watch some of those trailers that you liked in 4K. I think you'll be very pleased and impressed. Oh, man. Miles Dompier of Windows Central. Let people know where they can find you, find all of the content that you're putting out, which is an absurd amount of content for sure, man. Let us know where we can find you.
Yeah. So, Miles Dompier on Twitter, if you want to follow me there. And yeah, most of the stuff that I put out is over on the old Windows Central Gaming YouTube channel. So you might know my partner in crime over there, Jez Corden. You might know what we do when it comes to the writing side, but I've been kind of the person behind the scenes on the video side, kind of building up our presence there. So yeah, that's mostly where you can find me. If you want to send me memes, I'm on Twitter probably too much.
Thank you for joining me, Miles. You guys can find me on Twitter at InsipidGhost. And of course, you can find this show on all your podcast services and youtube.com/Xbox Expansion Pass.